As we wrap up 2025, I wanted to share three grounding reminders that will really help you close out this year with clarity and confidence. If you're new to my channel, hello and welcome. I'm Sarah Edens. I'm a financial consultant and educator, and I'm so glad you chose to join me today. I make new videos every week about wealth psychology and practical finance skills, so would love to have you join me and subscribe. And to all my current subscribers, hello, welcome back. It's so nice to see you. So let's look at what these three grounding reminders are that will really help you close out 2025 with clarity and confidence when it comes to your money. The first one is to focus on systems and not perfect goals. You know how big a fan I am of having systems for everything in your life, just to streamline things, making sure that you've got a workflow, automations, that type of thing that really help your finances flow smoothly. So instead of necessarily setting huge financial goals for 2026, really focus on the systems that you have right now going on and what you can do to kind of tweak those going forward. You might ask yourself, what's one system that made your financial life easier this past year? And another thing you can ask is there a small tweak that I can make to that system that will make it even more effective for 2026? So even look back, this isn't even necessarily about doing anything new. It might just be slightly improving or slightly tweaking a system that you currently have that you liked, that worked well, and you want to either do more of it in the new year or just refine the way that you're applying it to your finances. So one example of this could be maybe you did a weekly money check-in every week throughout 2025, just to have one day of the week to sit down, pull up your bank accounts, pay bills, make sure you're keeping your credit card balances paid off as much as possible with this crazy cost of living we've been dealing with lately, and to just really have that as a habit. So maybe you built that in 2025. And so perhaps going forward in 2026, you want to just tweak that slightly, modify it slightly, maybe spend a little bit more time per week going through your finances or going over your budget. That's just one example of just a small little thing that you can do going forward that will really help you to also see how far you've come in 2025. If you weren't doing a money check-in once a week with yourself and suddenly you're doing it now, that's huge progress. And so it's really important also to kind of celebrate those little wins as you start seeing them, as you started to implement systems to help you just stay calm, collected, and more focused when it comes to money. The second reminder that I have for you to close out this year with clarity and confidence is to perhaps do a soft audit on your finances as we go into 2026, just to kind of wrap up the year. And remember, this is not a judgment session. So this is not you sitting down and berating yourself, or maybe you're budgeting with a partner or a spouse and having a, blame game of trying to blame who blew the budget this year more or whatever. I don't want this to be anything that's going to cause tension for you or for your family if you manage money as a couple. But it's really helpful to just do an audit of your finances once a year, preferably maybe once a quarter, but at least once a year, and be able to have a look at how your systems worked. We were just talking about systems. Look at how your current systems are working and see if they worked kind of remotely the way that you were hoping they would, or if you maybe need to implement some new systems. So maybe you had a budgeting app that you were using and it wasn't really, the workflow of it wasn't really that helpful. Maybe you try something different in the coming year, or maybe you had a budget that you were really happy with how it went and you're going to just keep rolling it over into 26. It's also helpful when you're doing that money audit to really look at what were big areas of expenditure. I know for myself, this really varies from year to year. One year it might be that we need a new roof. That happened last year. And so the big money expenditure that really blew the budget was the new roof and all of the costs that has come with installing a new roof. Maybe for you it's different. Maybe you've got some unfortunate medical expense that came up and really ate up more of its fair share of the budget pie than it was anticipated to. But just to be able to kind of take a moment and pause and just recognize like where you were having some big financial challenges, look at what you did to kind of cope with that and what you're doing to kind of get back to baseline. It can take a while. I don't know about you, but I know for me, it can take a while when I've had a big financial stressor. It can take a while to recover just with my budget and with my cash flow management. And then it can also take a while to recover emotionally because you're dealing with just the emotional investment of having to spend a lot of money on something that maybe you were planning to spend on it, maybe you were not planning to spend on it, but regardless, it can just take a while to catch up. So the end of the year is a perfect time to just go and just take a quick look at all of the different things that happened throughout your year financially and look and see how that's all going and also see how are your contributions to savings going. And I don't want to put any pressure on anyone this year around savings. If you did or didn't remember to save, if you did or didn't remember to invest, if you're an investor, because this year was incredibly challenging. We were seeing some incredibly high prices. This recent Black Friday that we saw was just almost a record breaker for the number of volume of sales, at least here in the United States, because I think people just had all this pent up demand for things that they were waiting and waiting and waiting for to wait for the retailers to put things on sale. So they did a lot of their shopping in the fourth quarter. I know I did. I saw this in my Etsy shop as well. I made a record amount of sales in my Etsy shop for a Black Friday sale. So everyone, we're all in the same boat here, right? So very important to just kind of take a look at, did you put some in savings? Did you continue to contribute to your investments? And then what were maybe those big, unexpected, or perhaps they were planned expenditures, and get a good snapshot of kind of where you are and just take a pause, take a breath, and just be able to just look at everything before you just roll right into January. The third wealth reminder that I wanted to share with you as we close out 2025 is to just remember that one habit that's really strong, that's a power habit, that you actually take action on is far more effective in the long run than maybe a resolution to start 10 new habits that you don't ever start, or maybe you start a little bit in the new year and then fall off the bandwagon because you were just setting the bar far too high for yourself and it was just unrealistic expectations. And so just remember that, and focus as we go forward here into the new year on perhaps an anchor habit that you can use that will really help you be strong in this coming year financially. Maybe that anchor habit is budgeting. If you haven't started budgeting, and I've got a great playlist I'll link to and put it on the screen as well if you need some help getting started in that area. But maybe you want to have your anchor habit for 26 be learn how to budget or budget consistently. Maybe you want to have your anchor habit be automate savings so that savings just comes straight out of your paycheck into perhaps a 401k where you can get some tax advantaged growth if you have a 401k through your employer, perhaps a thrift savings plan if you're military or a government employee here in the US, or if you're an entrepreneur and you qualify for what's called a solo 401k, perhaps you're just going to start putting some money in there. So whatever is really resonating with you here, and I'm sure you can think of lots of other anchor habits, but whichever one that really you feel like perhaps was a weak area in 25 that you want to shift and do better or do differently or try to be more effective in the coming year, I'd highly recommend that you just pick one thing as opposed to getting distracted with feeling like you need to solve everything in your financial life in January. And honestly, whose idea of this was it anyway to have all these New Year's resolutions in January? Because when we look at the financial picture, we've all just come through Black Friday sales, we've come through all the Christmas shopping, and then most people end up with big balances on their credit cards if they're not careful coming into the new year, or maybe they were just saving purchases for the end of the year because they knew things would go on sale, buying Christmas presents, holiday travel, holiday food. You know, it all adds up. So I'm like, whose bright idea was this to have all this new year, new you financial resolutions in January when everybody is probably more behind than they are the rest of the year? So just be kind to yourself. And again, remember, we're living in very high cost of living times, and inflation has just been difficult to contend with. We've had a number of other things in the geopolitical sector that have just really changed how much things cost when you just go shopping for groceries or you go shopping for, something you need at the store. It's just been very challenging for all of us. And so just be kind to yourself. But if you can pick one anchor habit, that will really help you kind of feel really calm going into the new year, knowing that you're not trying to fix everything all at the same time in the wake of Black Friday and Christmas shopping. So just to recap, those 3 reminders that I wanted to share with you to help you kind of calmly close out 2025 are to focus on your systems and not on perfect goals or goals that are just unrealistic for you at this point with your money. Then to do a soft money audit, and remember, it's non-judgmental. There's no shame, there's no blame. Just kind of see where you are at the end of the year. It's always a good time to do that. And then also remember that one good habit you do consistently is better than 10 ones that you resolve to do in the new year and never actually take action on. Thank you so much for joining me. If you liked this video, I'm going to link to another one here that you may also enjoy, and I will see you over there very soon.